it's Anne Grange here from the Mindful Breastfeeding School, and today I'm talking to Sophie Brigstocke. Sophie is a doula and also director of Nurturing Birth, which is an organisation that trains and mentors people to become doulas, and she's also a breastfeeding counsellor. So welcome, Sophie.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Thanks for joining me. I love talking to doulas because when it comes to infant feeding and that early stage of parenthood, doulas just give such a gift to the people they work with. But just to start off, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what a doula is, just in case anyone who's listening doesn't know.
Doulas are basically there to offer 3 types of support. So we're non-medical, but we offer 3 types of support to people and families through pregnancy, birth, and the postnatal period. So that's emotional support, practical support, and information.
Yeah, lovely. And so doulas work directly with families.
Yes.
Either, like you say, at home, whether they're having a birth at home or in the hospital, but then may also do that sort of postnatal work. I'd love to know a little bit about what doulas do when it comes to sort of infant feeding, whether it's breastfeeding or bottle feeding. Where might they fit into that role?
Yeah. So yes, you're right. Doulas could work. Some are just antenatal, so it may be that they're working with people to prepare for birth and the postnatal period. It may be that they are birth doulas, so they do a lot of preparation work for the birth and then are there with people through the birth. Or they may be postnatal doulas, so going in those first few weeks or months, depending on the situation, and supporting families wherever they're at. And one of the great myths that I like to bust is that doulas are just about home births, drug-free births, only for breastfeeding families. I am there to support anybody wherever they're at. I want people to have a positive experience in the perinatal period, because ultimately that's going to be far, far, far better for the babies and for the bonding and for the ongoing emotional relationship that those family members have. So when it comes to feeding, I think in the UK particularly, we're really bad at preparing families for feeding. And I know this is, one of the reasons you do why you do what you do. I think we're really bad at preparing families for feeding. So helping people to access really good evidence-based information in advance of having babies, knowing what options are available for them, knowing what support is around. There's so much really good free support around for families. And then there are brilliant lactation consultants and things as well. So it's helping people to think about, we often talk about birth plans, don't we, when we're coming into birth? Talking a lot more about postnatal planning as doulas at Nurturing Birth. In our courses, we focus quite a lot on postnatal planning and thinking about, what are our expectations of having babies? Because so few people have experience around newborns. I meet so many people who have never held a baby before, let alone have any idea of how much they're going to need to feed or what sleep is going to look like or anything like that. So there's a lot of fear, and there are so many, you and I probably could talk all day and every day for the rest of the week about what we're told on social media, what the way media presents new parenting to the world. So I think doulaing is all about helping people to prepare, have realistic expectations. It's about signposting, as I said before, and it's about helping people to navigate that rabbit warren of information. If you Google, for example, I was talking to somebody today about sore nipples. And if you Google, I've got sore nipples, how many thousands of different things come up, and so much misinformation. So I think as doulas, it's knowing where to go and how to get that support. Whatever the kind of feeding issue is, whatever type of feeding people choose to do. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we work with people. And then obviously once they have their babies, it's being there with them and just helping them to get familiar with it and know that they're doing a good job, and giving them a sandwich or a drink or whatever if they're sitting on the sofa for endless hours feeding babies.
Absolutely. Oh, there's so much in there to unpick. I think you're right. So much of the preparation, we spend a lot of time preparing for the birth, which is so valuable, really important, can make such a big difference, not just to the birth, but to that postnatal period as well. But why we don't do it for infant feeding in our country particularly, is a bit of a mystery to me, to be honest. But I think, it makes such a huge difference. And key to that, it's not necessarily all the practical steps, isn't it? It's not necessarily this is how you latch a baby on, or let's learn all the positions, because you don't really remember that. What it's more about, what you were saying, that expectations, this is how you're going to feel, this is what babies do. I think we have very unrealistic expectations on how babies behave. We kind of think they're just going to sleep for hours and we're going to have loads of time perhaps to pick up a hobby, or something that we wanted to do for ages. War
and Peace, we've always planned to read. Yeah, I know.
So it's a bit of a shock, isn't it, when babies take up all our time. And I think, again, that's a beautiful thing that postnatal doulaing does. It creates that village. I think when I had my first son, I just expected myself to do it all, keep the house clean and show him off to people, and obviously feed him and look after him. That the expectation, I was just kind of expecting to do it on my own, and social media wasn't even really, well, it wasn't around then. He's 14, so I know that has increased very much so since that time. But it's a very strong message, isn't it, in our culture, that women should just get on with it. Mothering, we're made to mother, let's just crack on with it, and what are you moaning about, sort of thing.
Yeah, completely. And one of the big issues that we've got is the amount of isolation. Maybe they've been working, they've got a full-on social life, well, pre-pandemic anyway, but people have lives, established lives. People are having their babies often later in life, so that change as you bring a baby into your life is huge, absolutely huge. We don't exist in a culture, sadly, where mothers are honoured for the role that they play. They have birthed a baby. It's not kind of recognised that people need to recover after birth, and that if they are given the time to recover, that they're likely to have a far more positive experience of that postnatal period. They're more likely to bond and connect with their babies, are less likely to have any maternal mental ill health. Mental health challenges are massively on the increase. So doulaing is all about, and I think the important thing to say is that it is not about going in there and fixing it. As a doula, generally, we are not feeding advisors or counsellors. We are there to be with people, to honour the experience that they're having, to validate their feelings, and then to ask them what they need. And if they feel like they need more support, qualified feeding support, then helping them to access that really quickly and easily. The vast majority of doulas who are not infant feeding trained further, over and above what they've done on their doula courses, it is about knowing where and how to signpost in people like you to come in and provide that position and attachment, to observe a feed, to understand why somebody might be having the issues they're having.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really useful to have those links. Something that we talk about quite a bit at the Mindful Breastfeeding School is this idea of self-efficacy, or your belief in your ability to meet your goals. That sounds a bit like scientific or technical, and but the truth is that a lot of, in our culture, and I keep saying this, but we really do have very low breastfeeding rates in the UK, and yet most women do want to breastfeed. That's their choice, but for one reason or another haven't felt able to carry on. And we know that people who have this sort of higher self-belief in their self to reach whatever their goal is, those who believe in themselves more are more likely to get there, whatever that might be, whether that's 6 weeks or 6 months or 2 years. And I'm just wondering if you feel that doulas can really help with that side of things, just simply down to their experience and and giving someone that space and time.
Yeah, well, when I came in, when I took over running Nurturing Birth, I did some research, and we asked a lot of doulas about their experiences with the families they supported. And at that time, I think in the UK, the breastfeeding initiation rate was at about 85%.
Mm-hmm.
No, the vast majority of people wanted to breastfeed. But by 6 weeks, I think the rate had dropped to about 42%. Mm-hmm. So that is a steep drop, isn't it? The steepest in the world, actually. And when I asked the doulas, about 95% to say that their clients wanted to initiate and did initiate breastfeeding. And then at that 6 week mark, it had dropped to about 85%. So a far less significant drop. So it just shows that having doula support there, even those people who are not qualified, having that person there makes a big difference to your journey. And there is so much, I mean, you talked to this brilliantly, but there is so much emotional stuff connected with breastfeeding. I hear more grief, more trauma around people giving up breastfeeding sooner than they wanted to, than around birth itself. So it's a really significant part of people's journey. If they wanted to breast or chest feed, and then for whatever reason they had to stop sooner than they wanted to, you know, that can play a very big part in people's mental health journey.
Yeah, and it's really important that we acknowledge that, isn't it? Because so often someone will be struggling with breastfeeding. It's been really awful for them. And then they will stop because they can't go on any longer. And often there's quite a positive message about that from people. Oh, it's great that you're not struggling anymore. You know, your baby's perhaps getting more milk, or it's not painful for you both, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there's not much conversation or language about, you know, how do you feel about that? What's, you know, there's, you know, emotionally, how does that feel? It's a bit sort of fed is best, or like we might say with birth, you know, oh, at least you're both, you know, at least you're here safely and you both made it through. It's that sort
at the end
same
of the
sort
day,
of
you
thing.
have a healthy baby. Yes. Is a phrase that we talk power of language on our courses, and about just how damaging language can be. And I think often it's because we, the care provider, feel uncomfortable about people's experience that we try to offer platitudes. We're dismissing, we're totally negating the emotional experience that somebody is having. And that can leave people feeling even more isolated at a time when they're often sitting behind, you know, within their four walls, not having the connections that they would normally have. So we have to be so careful about how we use language. And I think as doulas, one of our mentors has a brilliant phrase. She says, as doulas, we are comfortable with the discomfort.
Absolutely. So I imagine to get to that place as a doula, and I hope one day I get to find out, because I'm absolutely a doula in the making, just not the right time for me at the moment. I imagine that there's a lot of self-exploration and self kind of work's not the right word perhaps, but that kind of knowing yourself, so that you can feel comfortable enough in yourself to then be able to hold space for somebody else and separate their stuff from whatever you've had or
absolutely That's a really fundamental part, often the most surprising part for people who come on a training. People often think, I'm going to go there and learn exactly how to do it, here's the jigsaw puzzle and I'm going to put it together. And actually, the surprising thing is how much self-reflection is involved. It's the conversations with the mentors. It's looking at, why are we drawn to doing this work? We're all drawn to the work that we're, you know, the worlds that we're in, because of the life experiences that we've had. Maybe it's how we came into the world. Maybe it's, if we have our own children, it's about our own pregnancy, birthing, parenting journeys. Maybe it's because we've been around friends and family members who've had particular experiences. And so I often talk about being clear and clean to work with the people in front of you. If you are hampered by your baggage, you know, all of those experiences, and those are clouding you, and you are with somebody who's having that same breastfeeding problem that you did, and it can really activate you to be with people in a similar situation. As doulas, we've got to have done that work, to have looked at our own stories, so that we can go out there. And crucially, where I think Nurturing Birth really stands apart, is that we really put a value on ongoing mentoring. We feel that if you're going out there and working with families, you're at step number one every single time you work with new people. You never know it all. And every experience you have, you need to have an opportunity to talk it through with somebody and to look at what came up for you through that whole experience. So yeah, we're very big fans of ongoing mentoring through the whole doula journey, whether you've been doing it for 2 minutes or 25 years.
Yeah, I love that. We have the same ethos at the Mindful Breastfeeding School. So if you train with us, you're supported by for as long as you're a practitioner. It doesn't feel quite right to just sort of like, off you go, you've got your training now, you'll be fine.
You're done now.
All sorts of things come up in our world. Things come up for me that I've never come across before, or that I just need to talk a situation through with somebody. We have we call it clinical supervision. So important, especially when people are working with families at this incredibly vulnerable point in their lives. We're not all perfect, we don't always get it right, but to have some support and just to be able to talk it out with somebody else, it really brings some depth and integrity to our practice, I think.
Yeah, completely.
I could talk all day to you, but we have to end soon. But I just wanted to ask you, just really, what have you got coming up? And if people want to know more about training with you, how can they find you?
Oh, thank you. Yes. So 10th to the 14th of January, we have got a free 5-day experience called Is There a Doula in You? Which is going to be a huge amount of fun. We're going to have daily emails with tasks and reflective exercises. There's going to be a Facebook group with lives, and we're going to have, we run something called the Virtual Cuppa at Nurturing Birth for graduates. Every week we run a 1-hour gathering for doulas to come and share whatever's going on. So we talk about all sorts of different topics. So there will be a chance to say, right, this is something I've always thought I'd like to do, an opportunity to come and do that and get a sense of who Nurturing Birth are. Because it's not just me, thank God. I have an amazing team, brilliant doulas who are based around the world. So yes, and then we offer 3 different doula courses, and we have dates for all of those coming up as well. We also run retreat days for people who work in the perinatal field. So anybody who is in the infant feeding world is very welcome to come, because one of the things that we really care about, really passionate about, is self-care. We like to nurture the care providers. We want to kind of give back and give people the opportunity. So yeah, there's lots going on. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at nurturing_birth, and on Facebook and all the places.
All the places. I will share your links underneath. Thank you so much, Sophie. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully we can do this again soon. I think we've got many other areas that we could explore.
Absolutely. Always happy to.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your spending your time here. If you'd like to know more, a good place to start would be with the Mindful Breastfeeding book. It's available from Amazon around the world, and it's a short interactive guide to mindful breastfeeding with journaling and guided relaxations and just more talk on the importance of having a calm and connected infant feeding experience. You can find our website at www.mindfulbreastfeedingschool.com. The link is below, and on there you'll get access to our practitioners directory. So if you as a parent and you'd like to work with somebody who's trained in mindful breastfeeding skills, as well as all the practical skills as well to be able to help you on your infant feeding journey, then you will find someone you can work with there. They also run classes as well as one-to-one sessions, so go and have a look around. And you can find access to our courses. So if you are somebody who would like to add mindful breastfeeding to your practice, then please do come and find our courses. We've got free training on there for professionals and birth workers, as well as access to be able to talk to me. So do leave me messages, do get in touch on social media. All the links are below. I look forward to hearing from you.